Serious. What are some scary, horrifying, creepy things that have happened to you or in general that could have a plausible explanation but still freak you out? Story 1. A few years back, I lived with my mother and German Shepherd in a 2-bedroom rented town home. I got home from work one day and went about my daily routine. When it came time to eat dinner, I knocked on my mom's door to come and eat. I smelled cigarette smoke and heard her grunt a response. So I went back down and ate alone. I figured I would just put a plate away for her. Fast forward to about 2 a.m., I am awoken by someone holding my hand and gently shaking it. I immediately shoot straight up and look around. My dog, who is overly protective and sleeps with me every single night, isn't in bed. She isn't even in the room. She most definitely was on my bed when I went to sleep. I sleep with the bedroom door shut and locked. She is scratching at my closed and locked bedroom door from the hallway. Frantic, I bolt for the door, let her in, and she is searching the whole room. I'm now yelling for my mother. No answer. I force my dog to walk down the hallway with me. I still smell cigarette smoke. I bang on my mom's door. No answer, so I just open it. She isn't even home. The bed is made and her TV is off. My dog and I search the whole entire house. Nothing is out of place. All the doors and windows are still locked. I was freaked out, to say the least. The next day, I called my mom and she told me she left early the day before to go visit my sick grandfather. Story 2. I used to have a penchant for wandering around abandoned buildings when I was in high school. One time, a friend and I decided it would be a good idea to explore a farmstead that hadn't been in use for years. The whole experience was really bizarre. The farmstead was accessible by a long gravel road that brought you to a cluster of dilapidated buildings around a central barn. We parked at the end of the gravel road near the turnoff to the main road so we could walk around the property and just pull out quickly later. We went into the barn first, and there were deer bones arranged in a circle. Around the skull and a bunch of blankets and wood stacked in a corner of the room. We thought it was really cultish and weird, noped our and started walking back to the car. Halfway down the gravel road, we heard crunching, heavy footsteps and someone screeching behind us. Blood-curdling screeching. We sprinted back to my car and tried to peel out of there as fast as possible, but it had snowed the night prior, and my back tire was stuck in a puddle of melted snow. My friend was screaming because she was so freaked out, but wouldn't turn to look at the path behind us. By the time I had gotten the car unstuck, she turned around to see if there was someone following us, and there was no one there. I could have been a bird or something, but we both swear up and down to this day that someone was following us. I actually thought I was going to die that day. Edit. For clarification. Answer. I used to go explore abandoned places with my friends too. The weirdest experience was at this abandoned amusement park we went to. The last time we had been there, a skeleton of a cat had fallen from a ceiling tile inside of one of the buildings and freaked one of my friends out. But I wasn't there, so I don't know much about that incident. But this park has a long walk to get to the entrance, and the gate has been bent just enough that you can step through it at the right angle. So we walk probably a mile across a field to get to this gate and step inside. The first building is some sort of old storefront type of thing. We walk up to it and one of my friends notices a light coming from inside, and we all fall silent as he steps forward to peek in. He looks back wide-eyed, and naturally the urban exploring rest of us go over to the doorway and check what he saw. The whole wall opposite from us was on fire. It looked like it had purposely been lit on fire, like no less than 10 minutes before we got there, and we straight sprinted back to our cars after that. Freaky shoot. Edit. For any of y'all who are really into this kind of thing, check out Urban Exploration. It's a really cool sub filled with pictures of old abandoned places like this. Story 3. To preface, I'm a suburban city boy. I've always lived surrounded by people and lights. So I visited my ex-meal in rural Georgia over the summer a couple years back. We're talking deep, deep, deep rural South. No light pollution, so you can see a billion stars and the actual Milky Way across the sky. Well, the night I went, it was one of those slim crescent moons, so it was even darker than normal. I can't see my hand at the end of my outstretched arm levels of dark. I'm walking their little rat dog around the yard along the edge of a forest, and I'm probably 200 yards from their little trailer, which is the only source of light besides my flashlight. This little rat dog stops dead in his tracks and starts trembling. He looks up at me with his bug eyes popping out. I hear a rustle of leaves and a twig snap, maybe 20 feet to my left. I scoop the rat up and start power walking back to the house, looking in all directions with the flashlight. Once I get halfway back, I hear a blood-curdling, high-pitched scream from hell. It sounded like a woman was getting stabbed. Oh shoot, this is some Hills Have Eyes shoot, and I'm gonna die. I ran as fast as I could back to the trailer. Ex-Mill told me it was probably a bobcat. They scream like that all the time, apparently. Story 4. This one is kinda creepy, but also kinda comforting. This story was told to me by my grandmother, who is a no-nonsense kinda broad, so I believe every word of it. My grandma had a neighbor friend who unfortunately lost her husband when she was young, about 40 or so years ago. It was a sudden passing, cardiac arrest, or something like that. So this woman was so upset because for a couple years after his passing, she couldn't dream of her husband. For some reason, it really bothered her that she couldn't experience a dream with him in it. It's almost like she wanted it for the comfort. Anyway, some time passes and this woman is preparing to sell her house and move closer to her kids. They lived a state over. Suddenly, she gets her wish. She starts dreaming and her husband is in them. She has multiple of these dreams, and in every one, her husband wakes her up, sits down on the bed, and starts speaking to her. However, his speech horrifies her. It was described to me as backwards or garbled. I imagine it to be something similar to the way Twin Peaks characters speak in the Black Lodge. So yeah, pretty goddamn creepy. She can't make a single word out. A few days before she's about to move out for good, she goes to bed and dreams of him again. The dream is the same, except she understands one word he says. He grabs her in the dream and repeatedly says, "rafters," almost seeming panicked. She wakes up, rattled, but returns to sleep. The next day, as she's finishing up packing in the basement, she looks up and sees the rafters. She remembers the dream and is compelled to reach into them. She does, and pulls out thousands of dollars worth of WWW2 bonds her husband had purchased without her knowledge. She swears he never told her about them, so he appeared in her dream to tell her so she wouldn't leave all those bonds behind when she sold the house. Story still gives me chills today. TLDR, woman's husband dies. She begins having dreams of him when she's about to sell their home. He says the word rafters repeatedly in the last dream, prompting her to look in the basement rafters, where she finds thousands of dollars worth of WWW2 war bonds. Story 5. This is less scary, horrifying, creepy, and more unsolved mystery that still bugs me. When I was 5, the tooth fairy came and left me a quarter for my tooth. She also left me this beautiful, intricately carved wooden pencil box. In the morning, my parents both asked me where I got it. I told them the tooth fairy brought it. Almost 30 years later, my parents still swear up and down it wasn't them. They've confessed tons of other things they did, so I believe them when they say it wasn't them. I would like to know where that thing came from and who put it there. Story 6. When I was younger, my mom, my grandma, and I liked to go to this little frou-frou tea shop that was about 40 miles from our home. It was a cute little place where you could get the classic tea and sandwiches and cute little desserts and all. One time we went, all was normal, but on the way home we received a call that my other grandma had passed away. Very sad, but as she had been battling cancer, not exactly unexpected. The next time we went, a few months later, on the way home, we received a call that my uncle had died suddenly of a heart attack. Creepy coincidence for sure, but we still did not think too much of it at the time. We went back a third time a few months after that, and for the third time on the way home, we received the phone call that someone had died. This time it was my grandpa's brother. We never went back to that tea shop again. Now all of these people were elderly and not exactly in the best of health, so them passing away around the same time was not exactly creepy. But the fact that 3 separate times that we went to this place, 3 people died the same day and we received the calls on the way home, makes me think something about that place was cursed. It has since closed, but I'm still nervous to even go to that area to this day. Answer: have you discussed this with your mom or grandma now that you are older? Maybe they knew that breaking the news to a child would be difficult, so they planned a nice afternoon. Having 40 miles to sit in a car where there aren't many distractions and you are not going anywhere, it would give you time to think about the situation and ask any questions if you had them. Story 7. So, this is going on as we speak, but let's take you back a couple of months to when this all started. One nice warm day, end of August, early September, I go outside and find this little ball of fur feathers hair and a dangling earring hooked in on my porch. Weird, I thought. I brought it up to my husband and said that there was some weird juju shoot on our porch, and it freaked me out. I was not touching it, but it needed to go. He suggested that it was a nice gift from the tomcat next door, or something that our dog dragged home. My dog has never done that before, but hey, a way more logical reason than someone leaving weird juju shoot on our porch. Cool. Then last week, this fully intact lower mandible bone of a white-tailed deer shows up on our porch in the exact same place as where the hair feather fur ball was placed. Again, I ask my husband about it, and he says that the dog must have brought it with him. Again, something that he's never done, but logical. I still wasn't going to touch it. The weird fur feather yaring ball was still fresh in my mind, and if someone was leaving weird shoot on the porch, I wasn't going to touch it. Thanks for taking that danger on, hun. It stayed on the porch for a while. Yesterday, I was studying, facing my front door. Around lunchtime, my dog starts freaking out, and I look up and there's this older, disheveled-looking lady, I think, on our porch, who I had never seen before, walking toward our front door. She leaves something on the bench we have out there and turns around and walks away. After a beat, I get up to grab whatever pamphlet she left on our porch, except she didn't leave a pamphlet. She came onto our porch, took the lower mandible bone and moved it onto the bench, right in the middle of 2 posts of the porch fence, right in line with a bright ray of sunshine. So now I'm pretty convinced that there is someone leaving weird shoot on our porch, and here's hoping we're not cursed. Answer: she sounds like a witch. Bones are a type of alternative tastes. A alternative taste is an object regarded with awe as being the embodiment or habitation of a potent spirit, or as having magical potency, source. The word alternative tastes originates from the French fetiche, which stems from the Portuguese word feitio, meaning charm or sorcery. Feathers, bones, crystals, and stones are all types of alternative tastes. Skulls and bones have an appeal to witches who perform spirit work and are a necessary and simple way to connect with spirits of the dead and of animals. Working with bones is not just for necromancers and black magicians. Practitioners who work with bones are a wide range of healers, diviners, shapeshifters, root workers, witches, shamans, druids, and pagans. Animal bones are used in witchcraft and folk magic to commune and work with animal spirits as familiar guides and protectors. She may not be doing harm, she may be doing something protective or to communicate with animal spirits. Why on your porch, though? I would try to talk to her next time you see her, but don't be angry or accusatory, unless she is just batshit insane. Then call the cops. Story 8. I was in a major car accident over a decade ago. My car was hit by another car in such a way where I lost control of the car. The car somehow went on a full circle on the highway. I T-boned a Jersey wall, completely destroying it and cracking the next two in line, and I bounced off that onto an off-ramp, with my side of the car facing traffic. I'm about to exhale when I hear, "Hey, kid." When I start counting, you have 8 seconds to move your car or you're going to be hit by an 18-wheeler. Do you understand? 8, 7, 6. Voice didn't have to tell me twice. I threw my car into drive and got onto the shoulder. At 1, an 18-wheeler drove by the spot my car was parked on. I should have died, according to the cops surveying the crash site later. But I walked away with a few bruises and I needed a root canal a few days later. I probably imagined the voice, but darn, I'm believing it was something otherworldly. Answer. My fiancé had something similar happen to him when we got in our accident. We were driving his late grandfather's Suzuki Swift. We had acquired a couple months before at his memorial. We were stopped with our turn signal on, waiting to turn, and this girl rear-ended us going like 45 mph and didn't make any effort to stop, even after impact. Now, if you don't know, head-on collisions in Swifts and also Geometros often end in the windshield busting inward and decapitating the passengers. Thank God he turned the wheel away from oncoming traffic, or that likely would have been our fate. However, when I asked him after the fact what made him turn the wheel, he said he could hear his late grandfather screaming in his ear to turn right, turn right. We live in the US. Turning right brought us over to the shoulder of the road instead of into oncoming traffic. He says that was the only thing that kept him aware and able to act quickly. I thank good old Ernie every day now for saving us edit, spelling. Story 9. My family and I went to Dubai in 2004. I was 7, and we were in the hotel pool when we see 2 big men suddenly come in and steal this family's little girl who looked around the same age as me and sped off into a car. There's nothing anyone could have done because we were all in the pool and the daughter's mother started crying hysterically. We ended up having to write a witness report for the police. I still wonder if they got their little girl back. Story 10. You ever used one of those sleep apps that records noise while you're sleeping? It's supposed to be so you can hear if you're snoring or talking or whatever. I'm having a hard time sleeping right now, so I turned it on. 3 a.m., there's a load of footstep sounds and sounds like doors and drawers opening and closing. I can hear myself moan close to the phone from time to time, like I'm dreaming. But there's not any noise of rustling bedsheets to explain sleepwalking or anything. I have a large velvety rug in my bedroom, so there shouldn't be footsteps. Realistically, I have a metal bed frame, so the clicking and knocking sounds are probably the bed frame shifting when I move, but it sounds really like other things. I'm not recording at night anymore. Edit. A few people were asking for recordings, so I made a SoundCloud account and threw some up there. You can hear me sneeze, and then at about 23 secs, a noise like a door closing. 3.0 on AM, knocking sounds, 2.25 AM. Lots of knocking, definitely some bedsheets rustling and disturbed sleep. And one more because it's funny. Hiccups when I was falling asleep. Plus, at the start, you can hear what something knocking on the bed frame really does. Sound like? Answer: oh, shoot, I used one of those for a little while. I agree. It's the fudge creepiest thing. It only starts recording when there's a noise, so you know there's something. Mine came out with about half an hour of recordings that were basically me farting in my sleep. But listening back to it is... okay, anyone who's seen the first Paranormal Activity and found it scary might understand the feeling. You know that anything you hear happened in your room while you were asleep and helpless, and it didn't wake you up. So you're listening really, really closely. For anything, a footfall, a giggle. Was that you talking in your sleep there? I can't describe the brief feeling of dread when I heard a door open and then realized it was my housemate going to the bathroom. And you hear nothing because there is nothing. Of course. And then it's 1 a.m. You're trying to sleep. And what do you think is running through your mind? Story 11. Here's my best. Would love a plausible explanation. BTW, this is back when I lived in New Zealand, walking home forest at night with a friend at like 2 a.m. Don't even ask. We were about 14. We were having good time, talking, etc. When out of nowhere, our friend shows up and starts talking to us. Our friend started chatting with us, and I felt a really strong sense of euphoria. This friend knew both of our names, and things that he shouldn't have, like exact details of inside my room, and things that happened to me before I moved into the country. Then he was just gone, and we both collapsed, physically exhausted. It was then that we realized that we had never met this friend, and we were still 10 kilometers from town and another 2 kilometers from our campsite. We just lay there for so long, recovering. I never actually properly saw my friend. I kind of just knew he was with us, and I can't recall his voice either. All I remember is him asking to take us to his house. Just turn left. My real friend luckily had the sense to not let me go. That left turn led to this unfenced lookout with like a 5-meter drop to rocks. Don't even want to think about what would have happened if I had listened. Scary shoot. Story 12. I've posted about this before, but when I was about 9 years old, 1995, in the middle of a bright summer day, I went to the refrigerator to get a popsicle. Suddenly, a roughly teenage-looking guy with long brown hair, like this, wearing a beige turtleneck and red plaid bell-bottoms, like this, but with dark green and black lines, turned around the corner into the hallway to my left, then vanished from toe to head as I looked at him. Told no one about it for years until after my mother mentioned meeting the now-grown kids who lived in the house before us, who asked her if she'd seen the bell-bottom ghost. Story 13. My friend asked me if I would go to her house after work and feed her dog, as she would not be home until 3 a.m. or so. She worked in a bar. I arrived at her house at 8:30 p.m. and got the key she had left under the mat to unlock the door. Once I unlocked the door, I turned off the alarm and put the key in a white bowl by the door. I am 100% sure I put the key in the bowl. I fed the dog and played with him for a little while, then went to lock up the house again and leave, but the key was gone. Just then, the dog started furiously barking and ran full speed out of the kitchen and up the stairs. He just sat there growling at nothing. The feeling that came over me at that time was so strange. I randomly burst out crying and couldn't stop. Eventually, I calmed down, put the dog back into the kitchen, and looked for the key. It was literally nowhere. I ended up finding another key that worked, so I just locked the house and left. I told my friend, and she looked daily for about a week. Then one day, the key was back in the white bowl. Story 14. I've posted this before, but here it is again. The plausible explanation is sleep paralysis. but I've never experienced anything like it before or after this incident. When I was in elementary school, I shared a queen-size bed with my older sister, and our family dog, a mutt that looked like a short-haired lassie, would sleep at the foot of our bed every night. When I was about 6 years old, I woke up one night around midnight and saw a dark figure standing at the foot of the bed. The figure was entirely in black without any eyes or a face. I tried to wake my sister up, but she rolled over to go back to sleep. My sister must have accidentally kicked the dog, because the dog woke up and raised her head and started growling at the figure at the foot of the bed. The growling then woke my sister up, and she saw the figure and started screaming. When my parents came into the room and turned the light on, nothing was there. To this day, both my sister and I are adamant that we saw a ghost or other demon in our room. We know we aren't crazy because the dog saw it too. Story 15. My wife has told me that very occasionally I talk in my sleep in some other language. She has no idea what I'm saying, but the language sounds a little bit familiar to her. When smartphones became a thing, she recorded me one time. I listened to it the next day, and at first I thought it was Italian, since some of the sounds and cadences were similar. I don't know Italian, so that seemed really odd. I shared it with a colleague who grew up with Italian. Turns out I was speaking Latin, which he had learned as a student. I studied a bit of Latin as a kid. It's long gone now, although I can recognize some words and know some Latin conjugations. He said that as far as he could tell, it